So, you're telling me that we lost a $2 million deal and nobody sat down to figure out why?
Yeah, that's exactly right. And it's a lot worse than that because your executive team has already moved on chasing other things that they're working on in their pipeline opportunities.
Oh boy, if I had a nickel for every time I heard the word pipeline. How do you improve that process of winning deals if you never look back?
Most companies are just running on hope, not learning, right? They'd rather chase the new shiny deal than figure out what went wrong with the last one.
All right, well, we need to argue about that. If your company's allergic to learning from failures, oh boy, I think there's one piece of advice, then that's the only piece of advice.
Yes.
Keep their resume updated.
Yikes. Absolutely.
If this is your first time, welcome to Arguing Agile. This is my co-host, Mr. Om Patel, and I'm product manager Brian Orlando. So today we're talking about learning from missed opportunities. By the end of this episode, we'll have some frameworks that you can use to run down missed opportunities and have a missed opportunity retrospective that sales and product actually want to attend together, especially if your sales and product in the organization is like this. And then we're going to have some specific questions that may expose why your executives are avoiding their accountabilities with regard to being accountable for their own predictions, especially when they say that, hey, we definitely should do something and just trust me, buddy. Just do what I say. And then we're going to talk about the political tactics that make learning from failure the competitive advantage instead of a career limiting move. That's what I like to call it, Om. I like to call it a career limiting move. If you ever watch a deal slip away or a customer churn and thought, we probably should talk about this. You didn't because you wanted to get promoted eventually. Well, this is it.
The arguments and the process to change all that.
That's right. Hopefully. So here's the question that should terrify all the product leaders. When was the last time that your sales team and your product team sat in the same room and dissected why you lost the deal? So if you can't remember,
yeah, you're not alone.
No, that's a problem. That's all right. So
the Steel-man against here is you got to move on. Right? You can't dwell on the past. So just chase the next one because, it didn't work, but that's fine. Let's not waste time on that because time is money. So move on. We don't have time for retrospectives and look backs and all of that.
Right.
And then dwelling on your failures or your losses, it kills morale and momentum, right? People don't like that. Our teams don't like that. So that's the case against.
There's a lot to unpack in this section that I want to talk about, but I'm going to try, just for the purpose of time, I'm going to try to hold back my natural tendency to let go on this whole section and just stick with, it's like any team that I've ever heard that wants to skip a retrospective and be like, move on, Brian. Don't worry about why things were the way they were. They just are. You can't dwell on the past. I'm like, yeah, but that means you can never learn from any mistake that you made. I was at a company one time where I worked very hard to get sales to trust product, to bring product into the room during the sales process. And because they trusted me to bring product in and integrate product into the sales process, I had the ability to tweak certain things that, from my perspective, they didn't really work. I was like, if we change the order of the presentation, or if we change the order of this, or if we jumped into this first, or even something simple like sitting down and having a pre-call before we go on site to do our big song and dance, whatever, to figure out like some pain points, some real specific to the user pain points, so that when we presented the demo, we were already solving some of their problems with the functionality of the demo. It wasn't just like a out of the box, completely generic demo. It was tailored for them with their specific pain points based off of what I could come up with. But if I wasn't in the room, nor was I considered about like, how could we have improved this if we didn't get the deal, we never would have learned any of that stuff, So this is a problem. It's like, I understand you're trying to move fast and like, I don't have time for that. I don't need more meetings, all this kind of stuff. But I mean, are we all a team here, or what are we doing?
Yeah, if you don't really do any kind of look backs, then nobody learns anything, right? So you're going to keep doing the same thing and hope for a better result. If you're a fast moving team, you still need to learn and not skip your retro, because if you're skipping your retro, you're telling me you've reached that level of nirvana, that you've learned everything there is to learn. Right? You've achieved perfection. It's hard to believe, first of all.
I mean, that's even assuming that like your competitors are not snatching up those lost deals that you never learn anything from. You're never doing like a forensic understanding of your competitor's roadmap how they solved a thing that you didn't solve a thing. Like that's never coming back in either.
Yeah, I'm hoping that sales would have that somewhere, that if you lose a deal, who did you lose it to? Was it your top competitor, the second top, or whatever?
I'm also hoping that also, but
it's a hope.
If there is a on the calendar scheduled event where you bring the things to the retro in good faith, to try to be open and transparent, that would be the time to share those learnings with everyone else. Whereas if you just don't know because you don't know, or maybe you legitimately are just like bad at your job. Sorry, I was trying not to do that. Not having a retro would certainly hide something like that.
But nobody else would know about that. So it behooves you to make sure that people understand why you're losing at the game. Maybe sales knows, we lost this to competitor A, B, C, whatever. And then they don't ask the next question necessarily because you haven't formalized the process of retrospectives.
Right.
The next natural question to ask would be, well, obviously, why? Right? Why did you lose? Did you lose on price? What did you lose effectively? Figure that out. But it's good for the team to know that, the product team to know that. Because in the way they build the product, that impacts what you can sell it for in the end, right? So plus your margin. So agreed. So fast-moving teams say, well, we're just going too fast to stop and learn. And that's definitely not a viable position.
I thought you were going to say nonsense, because that is what it is. That's a poor excuse right there.
Yes.
There are some takeaways in this category. I'm going to try once again to present them here on the screen. Oh, okay. Start your first cross-functional lost deal retro. Doesn't even need to be about, whatever you do with sales or executives or marketing or whoever's involved. It's a cross-functional team. You're getting together. I'll leave it up to you. There's so much stuff to talk about how you could pull something like this together that it would take the rest of the podcast. But let's, at a high level, pull together a lost deal retrospective, a missed opportunity retrospective, whatever you want to call it, man. And along the way, what I would do is I'd start with a little 45-minute. I tried to make it as close as possible to when we know the sale was missed. It doesn't have to be 72 hours. I like to have it a day or two at the most. I don't like to let too much time slip. Obviously, if you're coming back from a customer or a client or whatever you can do. But, you kind of...
The better, though, because the more you leave it, the less chance there is of it actually even happening.
Yeah, it's just something emphasized in the meeting agenda, emphasized in the opening meeting. Like better facilitation would definitely be called for in a meeting, like especially in your first one, because it's going to seem like a finger pointing game, especially if you have high level executive running the meeting of like, why did we lose XYZ? I would think a mature sales team will be beyond this kind of stuff. They want all the help that they can get.
I'd like to think that, but I haven't seen that very often. That's the downside to it. I've only ever seen it when executives call to action these people and say, why did we lose this multi-million-dollar deal? Far better for sales and product to get together and hold this and invite them in as stakeholders. Say, we're going to do an honest deep dive to figure out what went wrong here so that we can learn from it and not repeat this. And I'd like to think that executives would welcome that.
I've got a part two, a couple questions here. What did the customer say they needed? What did we promise? What did the competitor promise? If you can figure that out, that'd be great. What were the gaps? Some of this you might be able to do in surveys, stuff like that. So, what do we need to change for next time? This is if you don't have a framework specific to your company or your product. These are just some questions that I would start with. Open-ended kind of questions to start with.
Yeah, just be mindful that when you go into something like this, it's easy to just have discussions and then just leave the meeting. You need to have actionable, the outcome should be actionable is what I'm trying to say, so that you actually don't end up repeating the same things again. That's the idea behind it.
And then the last one here is end with a specific product or sales process change, or it doesn't even need to be a process change, but something that you will do separately the next time. So, like, even if you have sales and product in the room and we're all holding hands now, that's what I'm saying. It's weird. Don't dig into it. Then there are other problems. This section was about getting product and sales in the room. So I'm interested if anybody listening has climbed this mountain, is what I'm asking. So let us know in the comments if you have.
And while you're there, please like and subscribe.
Yes. But the next section I want to talk about is even if you get sales and product in the room, there is a bigger problem, and that's nobody wants to talk about customer churn.
Customer churn is really seen upon as a big failure. We've lost customers. That's a different question than why did we not gain a new customer? Because you already had this customer that you've lost, or these customers in a worst case scenario. So that tends to be a little more burning, I guess. And so people are resistant to it.
yeah, let's talk about that meeting that doesn't happen. The customer churn review. Boy, you can have the best features in the world, and you can have great marketing, you can have great everything else. Boy, if you got the hole in that boat, that leaky hole in that boat just keeps getting bigger. Like, it doesn't matter how fast you shovel water out. You shovel water out, you bail water out, right?
Yeah, you kind of try and do the best.
You can.
Yes, that's right. The bare hands.
Oh boy.
Churn.
This is I need the Spider-Man meme right now about who's responsible for churn. Everyone blames each other. 100%.
So this is the one, use the hole in the boat analogy. This is where I envision product on one end of the boat, sales on the other end, and they're both pointing fingers at each other and going, but the hole's on your side.
Yeah.
It doesn't matter.
That's right.
The boat's going down. So what are some of the reasons why the meeting that should happen never happened?
Boy, I mean,
Got to scratch that a little bit and just say,
I mean, nobody wants to be the one with the finger pointing at and saying it's your fault. No, you know.
yeah, that's very true. And even if the meeting sort of happens, right, it gets over very quickly by people just placating one another, saying, well, we lost that sale because of the customer's budget or
Right.
whatever. So it's what I'm saying is, on the surface, you could poo-poo these things, or you could really deep dive to learn.
Yeah.
If you just say it was because of customer's budget, well, okay, fine. Let's just get into the why. Was the budget not big enough? Was the budget never approved? Was it too much that you're asking for your product?
Mm-hmm.
Or what could you do differently, right? Maybe you can segmentize your products where you offer fewer features for a lesser amount of money.
Well, you're making the Steel-man case right now, so I went ahead and put it on the screen here for you. What I think I heard was you making the case that customers are leaving for budgetary reasons. They just don't want to renew. The budgets got slashed. There wasn't any money.
Right.
There's nothing we can do. Nothing to learn here.
When I hear that, what I hear is they just didn't see any value in your product offering. That's what I hear. Because if they see value, right, you could negotiate on the budget. But everything's negotiable.
Yeah. And of course, the other one here is that, well, if we had a review for churn, it would just be a big witch hunt. We'd be attacking development. We'd be attacking
the blame game.
Product, whomever. That's right. Those are two solid points. I don't want to be blamed. I don't know, man. So budgetary, let's start with budgetary.
Yep.
Like the budget is just there, and like they didn't have budget, they got funding cut or whatever. Their company's not doing great or whatever. So what that means, what I hear in product when I hear that is like the value provided by our product was not like hands down, we absolutely cannot live without this. You know what I mean? Flat out, hands down. So like unanimously believed by the customer. That's what I hear. There was doubt. I've been in like a B to C type of thing where like a buyer bought the software for a customer at their company to use, and the company employees are like, "This, I don't want to use more tools." They were never bought into it. It's just somebody got excited, bought a thing, and customers were never on board. So like that kind of situation, like that kind of thing, I would expect to come out when like, well, they bought it this year, and then at renewal time they went in and like nobody's using it. Well, how did you go a whole year in a renewal or whatever it is? Why did it take this long?
Telemetry, basically, or whatever.
Well, there's a failure there. First of all, why did your salespeople sell to a company that doesn't want your stuff? You know what I mean? Like, why are we chasing those leads over other leads? There's a lot to be brought. Like you would think the category we just talked about with the like the after action of like, how come we didn't make the sale? Or this is the same meeting, but it's how come we didn't retain this customer? Again, you can have a big sales team and go out and get customers and you'd be like Amazon warehouse people, get 150% turnover in a year with your customers. Where they just keep leaking out the boat. As soon as you get them in, they just fall right out, and you're not even paying attention to why. The other side of that is you get a customer and you retain them for a long time because they're really happy. But you would never know if you don't do any kind of introspection, retrospection, inspection,
all of that.
Detection, inflection. Sorry,
you got to have the intention though to do all this, right?
Man.
So look, this is all good. What we're saying is this kind of a retrospective isn't just a quick 15-20 minute meeting or half-hour meeting.
Mm-hmm.
If you're doing it justice, you really need to go into it, put a receptacle out by the door, ask people to check in their egos before they walk into the room, and really honestly try and figure out what happened. Right?
Well, we have some slides of the takeaway for this one. So I think let's see what we have for process for this later. I want to move on to the other point that we have written here. I think that a better version of this would be part business development, part customer solution, customer service, part sales, you know what I mean, part product roadmap. So like it's all that rolled into one to say like before somebody churns out, we should be doing like a business development review, even if it's only internally, to see where that customer is trending. And not just
customer service is a great source of information.
Yeah, I mean, I hate to say it, I've not seen this be a normal thing.
I haven't either. I've seen some fickle attempts at it, but really nothing serious.
Fickle attempts because you want to sell them something else is what I've seen.
Exactly. Yeah.
And then the witch hunt, the point about finger pointing, right? And I'll agree that one's valid and a good point, but only from the perspective of, if you have no framework or process or facilitator, then make sure these things stay on rails.
Right.
Yes, I agree with that. But why are you going into a meeting where everyone's just coming in and throwing fruit at each other with no framework, no agenda, no nothing? That can't be the way these run. That, of course, they're going to break down if you don't have any kind of framework or a good facilitator.
Yeah, but a lot of the times, those companies that actually even are doing this sort of retrospective, those meetings devolve into something like this. They become blame games.
And then, obviously, where I'm going with the business development roadmap is that your roadmap, your product roadmap, like the customer leaving is a reflection of your product roadmap months ago. Like things you could have dealt with if you were on top of your BD game. Too late by the time that this happens. So if you're afraid to ask why your customers are leaving, then you're afraid of admitting that your product strategy it's not based on evidence, is what I'm saying.
Yes.
So let's see. We had a little bit of a framework here to try to recommend. You need some structure if you're actually going to try to have a no blame churn review. You need some kind of exit interview. It needs to be as close to the customer churning as possible. If you're in B2C, I see people doing this with the surveys when people don't renew or whatever. A lot of companies also try to bring back recently canceled folks with steep discounts and stuff like that. I don't have any kind of statistics about how long that lasts, but there's tactics for that kind of stuff as well.
Surveys and polls are very good tools for sure. Yeah. And then asking open-ended questions like, what would it take for us to retain you for another year? And then you really try to understand some of the pain points that were glossed over perhaps when the customer told you that they weren't renewing. But when you're asking these questions now, you're basically saying, well, you name your price and we'll see if we can meet somewhere in that region.
Which is funny because it's exactly what you do when they onboard for the first time. So the pattern analysis here, you should be reviewing all of your churn metrics. I think quarterly is way too long personally, but I would be reviewing all your stuff at a minimum at your quarterly strategic review. Whenever you do that with the higher ups, you say, hey, these customers are at risk. These people don't really use the software. We can't count on them to renew, in my opinion, or whatever. And it can be based on data because you got real data of usage and stuff like that. Again, you're just having a BD conversation here.
Right.
You're not having a finger pointing or any kind of that kind of stuff. Although I could completely see, just from my experience, I could completely see it being used as like Brian's telling us what to do. Brian's at it again. Here he goes.
This is the danger, right? So then the teams devolve into not doing these things, right?
Again, sometimes just because I said it. Oh no, this is getting too real for me. And then let's see. And then the adjusting your product roadmap based on those churn patterns is definitely something you should do. I mean, if you have like the evidence from the people churning of things that you didn't do, as opposed to like the evidence of the new features or the new customers or whatever. We talk a lot about discovery of like trying to win a new customer, trying to bring in a new market or whatever. But again, like all that water that you're bailing out the boat because these people are leaving, like, is that worth more than the people you're trying to bring on? So these are just not like modern product management, and especially the podcasts and stuff that I listen to, the product management, YouTube videos and stuff like that. They don't talk about this kind of stuff.
That's right. They don't.
All right. So some takeaways from this one. There are no takeaways. Sorry.
No, the biggest takeaway is if you're not retrospecting, then you're not doing it right. So.
Yeah. Well, we gave two retrospecting. It's like with pickaxes. We gave two. One was retrospecting why you lost deals, and the second one was why you lost customers after you made the deal with them later on renewal time and stuff, because that's churn. So we gave you two different things to look at and said, hey, you need to be here's some very loose frameworks to help you start retrospecting. So what do you think about this category? What's your experience with churn? We'd like to know. So let us know in the comments.
Absolutely.
Okay. So now we've covered lost deals and churned customers. But there's another conversation, and that's going to be a tough one for most people to have, which is whoever makes the bets in your company, executives, product, whomever,
Yes.
holding them accountable for their predictions. I'll call them predictions. So I've got a radical idea.
I like radical.
Radical because it gets you fired, but let's ignore that for a second and say, let's say we actually go back and check whether these big strategic bets that executives come up with, and they go to a big offsite and they come back and say, we're doing this now. We're going in this bold new direction. And what if we compared their predictions to reality on a regular basis to ask, hey, what could we have done in this time period? And where would that have left us as a business? And I mean, that it sounds reasonable. It sounds like something you would do with a very, very, very small business. Yeah, is this why we can't have nice things?
So these opportunity cost discussions don't happen very often, if they happen at all, especially because people that have turned up at the table to make those bets are at least multiple levels above your pay grade.
Right.
That doesn't mean that they shouldn't welcome a conversation around that, because they're betting the company's money on here, betting the farm, or at least a little patch of the farm. So yeah, they should welcome this conversation. Depending, again, this is where, do they have egos? Because if they do, they're not going to welcome this. They'll say, well, I'm the executive here, right? I'm the adult in the room, so get back to your machine and start grinding away. But really, as a company, you're not going to get anywhere if you're not accountable for your actions. Those same executives are holding everybody accountable for their own actions, right? So why not them?
Right. Yeah.
Who does that? Like, who makes that happen? I can tell you who it isn't, by the way. This is the easy part of the conversation. It is not the CEO, because these executives are experts at spinning the story and pivoting the blame on someone else.
See our podcast about changing the message, Arguing Agile 235. That's right.
Twisting the message. So this is a case where I encourage, if you have any kind of, especially if you have any kind of evidence, right? Just go and approach this subtly and say, we did this, we expected X to happen, but Y happened instead.
Well,
don't use the word you against the executives unless you're really close to the revolving door, or it will put you there. So just say, look, we expected something to happen, something else happened instead. Can we examine why? And again, framing it that way, you're not in there saying, well, you, Ms. Campbell,
I don't know.
You're not doing that.
I simultaneously want to disagree with you and say most executives' egos, and also product leaders, their egos are made out of glass. And that's just not a thing that you could do. But also, I'm in this position where I want to throw out the Steel-man side of the argument. So it's very strange to immediately be saying you can't do this. But most companies, I think, what they will give you, like the points that they'll give you is, they'll say a couple things. I expect the first thing they'll say is like, my time's better spent trying to get us to figure it out. It doesn't matter how we got here. It doesn't matter whose fault or whose ideas it was. Yeah. Let's just move on. We said this as an excuse in a previous category as well as like, hey, buddy, get it. Like, this sounds a lot like deflection now, the more I'm saying it. Hey, that's just a waste of time, and we can, it's time to double down on finding new customers, and let's not worry about, well, this water's coming into the boat through these holes that I told you not to fix 6 miles ago. You know what I mean? I told you not to fix it when we were still offshore, and now we're in the deep sea. And
those are nautical miles, but who cares?
That's right.
Wet anyway.
That's right.
Yeah, I agree. It sounds like deflection laced with avoidance.
Right.
So yeah, absolutely.
And like the market changes so fast that 6 months we'll be out of this, or 3 months one more customer will be out of this. What does it matter?
Yeah, and sometimes executives will pull the wool over your eyes and say, well, we didn't really expect to win that. It was just one of those things. We cast it anyway and see if any fish would bite. We'd rather work on this other thing. They're very good. They're spin masters.
Yeah, I hate to promote Amazon in any way, shape, or form, because Amazon is quickly revealing themselves to also, much like Palantir, to be a very skillful, evil technology company. But it's like the 6-pager concept of like, well, you write down, like you put your name on the paper. You are the author. You write down your beliefs and your concepts and your research. Then you turn it in order to move forward in an initiative from scratch. Like, if there's not even that level of like a 1-pager, let alone a well-researched 6-pager, I have been in companies that nothing gets written down, and there's no product management. Just the executives spout off whatever shower thought they came up with that day, come in, and then by the end of the day, they've forgotten what it was. They come in the next day and say, why is everyone working on that? I never said to do whatever. It's not like they're not schizophrenic, but they're just the pace at their level is as such that they just can't remember.
Yeah, they avoid writing down stuff because it creates an indelible record of damning evidence. So you don't do that. You never said it. If you did, maybe you misheard. So there's all these things that they use kind of to,
that's called gaslighting.
Oh, it is. It's gaslighting. Absolutely. Somebody else may have said that.
That's definitely gaslighting.
Right. So what's another? Do you have any more on the Steel-man side, or do we move over?
Do I need any more? No, I think I rest my case, Your Honor.
Okay. Well, Exhibit 1, rapid market changes is often kind of touted as, we don't have to worry about, we don't have time for all that stuff because we're chasing the next thing, right?
Yeah.
That's great. The problem is it masks accountability at various levels.
It masks accountability. As the product manager, my job is discovery. Market discovery and user discovery, market research, user research. That research needs to be written down somewhere. So if you're saying like, well, the market moves really fast, I'm like, yeah, it does. But what does that mean? We have to be writing things down. We have to be putting our experiments on paper somewhere. And if you're going to come in and say, I don't need any of your experiments, just do X, Y, Z, like whatever the scoring rubric is that we all get judged by, you're basically coming into the fighting ring and saying like, I don't need to train. I can just knock it out one punch, no training.
You're right about documenting or writing down stuff if you want to be evidence-driven or data-driven.
Yeah.
Because otherwise it's someone's opinion against someone else's opinion.
There's no other way to calibrate your prediction mechanism for business other than user research, market research.
There's no other way to do that meaningfully. Yeah, I couldn't agree more. I mean, people will say, well, I've been in this game for 34 years, right?
Yeah.
You're selling Cadillacs and you'll still keep selling those things or whatever. But yeah, I agree. Evidence-based is the way to go. And the only way to do that is to write down. Numbers don't lie. Sometimes they don't lie.
So I don't think it's a huge step. If we back up, typical companies let product management do this. Say, oh, you got an idea, just bring it to product management. They just shuffle it off on product management, which this could be another podcast, by the way, is like, hey, managing all the ideas. Like what if you have like a lot of stakeholders that have good ideas? A lot of people just shove this stuff off on the product management and say, just go talk to the product manager. And then the product managers say, well, we're overwhelmed because the executives bring us this and the employees bring us this and customers bring us this. And we don't know who to serve and what to work on because you don't have a framework for like quickly researching and testing ideas or having the people bringing you the ideas help in the research and testing, thereby contributing to that machine of idea testing, a deep bucket of users. Why are they in a bucket? A pool of users. That's what I'm trying to say. It's a very nautical theme today. Well, it's aquatic themed podcast today. But, if you don't have a set of users to go back to, who are your test users? How do you get a hold? How do you incent them? Whatever. Then you're really starting from scratch. I mean, it's no wonder you don't know how to do any of this stuff. Exactly. You have no framework.
You just lean through.
Yeah.
That's what you're doing.
So, I mean, good luck for that while the luck is good.
Right. Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, the best strategies here, like they're actively tracking prediction accuracy. If people are helping test ideas, now you've got all kinds of metrics that you previously didn't have about who comes up with what idea and which ones tracked directly to revenue generating ideas or customer satisfaction elevating ideas, customer delight. You can track that.
Success metrics are, yeah, absolutely. And those kinds of prediction initiatives, they get better over time. You get to improve your craft as you go forward.
Yeah, that's interesting because like nobody does it. That's the takeaway here that we're talking about is building some kind of prediction accountability. It's called executive prediction accountability system, but it doesn't have to be like that. It's just an ideas accountability tracker of some sort that shows like the benefits from the ideas when you can show them. And like a way to do this, number one, is to create a log to actually write the ideas down somewhere.
Right.
And then obviously you have to figure out how to test them in the market, how to measure them after the fact, that kind of stuff, figure out what features spawned from them. I don't think that this is too out of line to just say, hey, let me figure out where to write my ideas. And the ones that get used get spun up into a ticket in whatever ALM tool you use. I mean, it might be a good ALM tool. Might be Jira.
Yeah, there's many ways to tactically handle these ideas. They could also just be straight into your LM tools. They're not things that teams are working on,
right,
but they're being vetted till something comes through and then it hops over into becoming a feature or whatever.
And then the reality check side of this is you revisit these. I mean, I don't know if a quarterly is too long to revisit these pools. I mean, they're large pools of ideas, so I don't think quarterly is I mean, if you don't have a better cadence than this, you don't have a faster cadence of ideas, or if you're doing it for the first time, quarterly is probably okay.
The ones that you're actually doing A/B testing or whatever, I mean, they'd be bubbling up to the top of that backlog.
Oh, and then the last part is that you're tracking some metrics over time. It's, which ones do we get right versus which ones we get wrong. They probably won't be measured in right wrong, because some ideas will pan out into other ideas.
Degrees.
But just something like that. So that's just a small takeaway that you might go back to your workplace and try. Just to track ideas, and where do those ideas lead to? They lead to features. They lead to improvements that customers like. Do they lead to more money? Do they lead to closing of sales? Who knows? But if you're not tracking where they came from, then the executive that rolls in with a shower thought that he had in the middle of the night, I mean, he's just as right as your most researched product manager.
Yeah, absolutely.
That's scary.
Yeah.
Have you had an idea in the shower and then spent 6 months of development time working on it?
An executive who never reviews their predictions isn't a strategist. They're just someone with opinions and a bigger salary.
Boy.
So we've talked about meetings that don't happen, and the org structure that prevents learning in the first place. Let us know what you think about this topic down in the comments below.
So we talked about meetings that didn't happen. We gave some retro ideas, but we haven't talked about the organizational structure. We're coming to the end of the podcast when we're talking about organizational structure. Organizational structure that prevents learning in the first place. So that's what we're talking about now. So if you want to know why your company never learns from missed opportunities, arguably it might be a culture problem. I would argue it's a structural problem in the organization. When sales, product, customer support, or customer success, when they report to different executives and they all have their own OKRs and their own silos, I just don't see, like what we talked about earlier in the podcast of just getting a cross-functional team together and talking about why we failed and what we can do better. I see that being much, much harder now that we've got all these games going on.
So one of the difficulties of having cross-functional organization teams is it impedes expertise and efficiency. That's the Steel-man argument right there. Functional specialization creates expertise and efficiency, creates and promotes it.
I mean, I know that's the argument, but I mean, that's kind of a weak sauce argument, I think.
Definitely.
There's a whole book, Team Topologies, about this.
We did a podcast on that.
Yeah, we did. We did a podcast on team topologies called Team Topologies, Organizing Business and Technology Teams for Fast Flow by Manuel Pius and the other guy. It was Arguing Agile 67. Arguing Agile 67. That's right, kids.
Oh, 67.
That's right, kids. Hey. If we do retrospective every time, we'll have all these different teams doing their own retrospectives, and then we got to do cross-functional retrospectives, and then we got to do executive retrospectives. What's with all these meetings, That's meeting overload.
Meeting overload. So
Something.
then we're admitting we're just too busy to improve?
Oh, I thought you were going to say too busy to fail.
No, you're not too busy to fail. You're failing all the time.
It's like too big to fail, only
too big to fail.
Minus the federal government. That's it.
Right. Yeah, we're too busy to improve.
Functional specification creates expertise and efficiency. That functional expertise one, like that, boy, that one, I've heard a lot of people rattle that saber of that. Oh, we got to have all the DBAs over here, and we got to have all the programmers that are back end over here, and all the front end people over here. Like, we can't have anybody talk to each other. How dare you? I'm surprised at this management model. That's what it really is. I'm surprised it still persists.
I think it has its roots in efficiency. We can't be hiring 15 DBAs. We hire one,
right,
and we'll time slice him 30 times because 15 into 1 doesn't go. So functional silos on the surface looks like they optimize efficiency at a local level.
Yeah.
Right? But at a macro level, do they?
If you're not incented on the whole, on the system, that's what I'm trying to say.
Optimizing the whole.
Sorry. We did a Deming podcast, like everybody in the world should listen to it. We did Arguing Agile 199, W. Edwards Deming, Profound Knowledge for Transforming Organizations. I mean, it's a quick, whatever, hour and a half.
Almost 2 hours, I think.
It's an hour 53.
Yeah,
almost 2 hours. Arguing Agile 199. You can hear all about the games that people play and how to destroy a system, and he wrote the book on that almost 50 years ago at this point.
Yeah.
Again, that's why I say I'm amazed that this stuff is still like brought up and promoted like it was the newest hottest thing, like a forward deployed software.
Which is the newest hottest thing.
It's the newest hottest thing that's like completely not new at all. It's
right.
just nobody remembers. Exactly. Pepper Strong remembers. So yes, if you're playing games, and you don't consider anyone else's work, and you're only scored on your own goals, we're not playing as a team, we only hit goals ourselves, then I guess it's a point, but I don't know. It's not a good point. That's what I'm saying.
You as an organization are not a learning organization at that point, right? Because you're not learning. You're not doing retrospectives. You're not learning by doing cross-functional look-backs and understand how you can improve together as opposed to locally individual silos.
And also, there's so many games here. That's all I can think of is I can't move my brain past all the games that play when you're in those silos. I had a CTO come to me one time and say, Brian, you just got to keep these developers busy with enough work. I'm like, what are you talking about, busy with enough work? I would rather have every single developer in the organization trying to solve our top problem and like sitting over each other, looking over the shoulder at the laptop of one single person, pitching ideas, because like I can't explain to the CEO why a single developer is not working on our top problem. It's not a conversation that he will have any kind of grace about. He'll say, we have a problem. What if there's a blow up in production, right? Like, oh, I'm not fixing the blow up. I'm over here working on widgets. Why are you doing that? There's customers down.
Yeah, well, the flip side of that from executives would be, well, why you have multiple people working on the same problem?
Yeah. I have worked for and spoken with both of those types of people.
Yes.
But, I think the learnings that come from solving problems, or at least being in the room when those kinds of critical problems are solved, and knowing that you're working on the most important thing, I don't know. That's a tough discussion to have.
It is a tough discussion. And sometimes executives will kind of relent a little and say, well, you can have your team retrospective, and they can have theirs, and they can have theirs. So at that point, all you're doing is checking a box.
Yeah.
I think that's pretty much it.
The only point I would have that would be valid for any of those folks that are like, how many people do you need to work on one bug? I will say, well, in the companies where it's the most important thing, and they clearly make that distinction, and they don't care how many or how few people are working on it.
Right.
Like, those people eat your lunch and then go buy another lunch and eat that one while you're still sitting trying to figure out the first one. So, they're outperforming you left and right.
Yeah, at the end of the day, what are you pricing? Like, what are you measuring? Are you measuring reducing pain for your customers in the shortest possible time? Or are you saying we're just going to look for efficiencies or utilization of individuals or however, right? So it comes down to that.
And also, you can measure yourself right out of my office with that attitude. Indeed. Is what I would say. Absolutely. So, like, the takeaways here are very similar to our previous takeaways, where if you've never had a cross-functional, if you have a lot of silos, you want to pull together some kind of cross-functional retro for hopefully a semi-serious reason. So you can actually pull together learnings as a group that any one silo would not be able to come to on their own.
And these don't have to be very structured or formal. They can just be sort of like root cause analysis for anything that you're experiencing as an organization, right? Get the right people together and go to task.
Yeah. And it doesn't have to be the same people every time as well. I mean, in product, it could be an analysis of what opportunities did we pass. Going back to the category we talked about earlier, what did we pass on? And now what does that opportunity look like in retrospect if we had worked on it? And maybe it's like nothing. Obviously, you want to have some kind of rigor to where you pick those ideas. You don't want to be picking softballs. Yeah,
sure.
But yeah, I mean, that's one. Hopefully the executives are involved in this. I mean, hopefully you have an executive sponsor. I would think that you're doing something like this, some sort of cross-functional learning opportunity. You probably do have an executive sponsor. You have some sort of horsepower from the top. This is like every Agile transformation. You've got that one person on the exec that says like, we should be learning from our failures over here. And everyone looks at them begrudgingly and says, fine, you can have this person for 30 minutes.
All right. So if you've had experiences where multiple teams came together to find what went wrong, etc., let us know. Let us know anyway what you think about this particular subject down in the comments below.
So we talked about diagnosing structural problems, and now it's time on the podcast for us to move fast and break the law. Oh no, it's not. It's not.
That's called speeding.
It's not time to move fast and break the law. It's
No.
it's time to move fast and break things. That's what it is. Move fast and break things. It's the rallying cry of modern tech companies. Move fast and break things, especially in Silicon Valley.
Silicon.
They're so silly.
Silly with a dash.
Oh.
Between silly and calm.
But here's what nobody's going to tell you. That's right. Nobody in the whole world. When you move fast without stopping to learn what you broke as you're moving fast and breaking things, then you're just the what was the cartoon character that spun around the Tasmanian? Then you're the Tasmanian devil. Yeah. Then you're the Tasmanian devil. You're just spinning around, breaking things at increasing speed.
You're breaking things at higher speed all the time. All right, well, good luck keeping that funded, because that's going to run dry pretty quickly.
We're funding Tasmanian devils.
I mean, look, this sort of thing you would think through just natural evolution would weed itself out pretty quickly, because who would want to fund that sort of thing for any period of time? But these are the executives that just hop over onto greener pastures and spin up new teams that keep thrashing, because that's what this is, expensive thrashing. You go around in circles or ellipses, and you never come out of the orbits.
I mean, hey, I love a good Steel-man, and now's the time. Like, I want to actually use the Steel-man logo at some point in the podcast. So here, Speed, not the movie Speed, not Keanu Reeves Speed. We're not on any buses. They're not going under 50 miles an hour or whatever it is. Speed itself creates competitive advantage. And if you're not sure about that, I got every AI vendor in the world, every AI tool wrapper in the world trying to sell you a product that's saying, Speed will fix all of your idea problems. Speed will fix all of your problems spiritually, categorically, spiritually, metaphysically. Speed will fix all your. Listen, it sounds ridiculous to say it out loud, but I mean that's what they're peddling this.
That's absolutely,
and have been for months and months and months and months. Everything you guys are talking about in this podcast, that's just bureaucracy. You're killing my momentum. You're crushing my vibe, man.
Yeah, you're adding latency. That's very
I'm
true.
vibing.
Build it and they'll come. Yeah, good luck with that. Good luck getting that funded too.
All right. Well, I didn't say they were good Steel-man points, but the Steel-men have spoken.
Yeah, they have.
It's raining Steel-men. That's what I'm saying.
They have radical.
Like Speed. I mean, it's again the Steel-man. I can't even try to defend it. I can't even try to defend it because it's a whole career fighting against Speed because you think it's the way to go. Great, and then if we meet your deadline that you made up, that was never a deadline in the first place. Isn't this how Agile software development was even born in the first place? It's we got to have this by this date, and I just made up the date. Anyway, you're not learning anything. It's speed for the sake of speed. Somebody set the original deadline anyway. It's expensive thrashing, if you think about it, because we're going to deliver. We're going to take 6 months, 8 months, 9 months, whatever. We're going to deliver something. Customer's going to hate it. There'll be change requests. Everyone's getting upset. There's more money getting poured into it. Margins are getting tighter and tighter. This is like the beginning of my career development, like early 2000s development.
Yeah.
And that's the way it was. It wasn't really every week, but it felt like every week there were new deadlines, and they were just as ridiculous as the last deadlines. And release day, you were working super late. Right. It was this. Now you've got 996 culture. Now
996 again. Oh my goodness. You're going to wash out some really good people in that same culture. And so it sort of dilutes the whole thing, because you lose good people. What happens? You end up with people that are not as good, but they're still thrashing. Then what happens? It's for another 90 days.
I don't know. You're going to get people. I think you're going to get more 996ers in there that think that, well, if you're not working 996, then you are the problem.
Right. Yeah. You're not working hard enough.
That's right. You just got to get rid of that pesky wife and kids, and you'll be able to be 996 for life. Oh boy, I don't know where we're going in this podcast, but I like it. You spent no time building feedback loops. You spent no time building a culture that attracts people that can learn from their mistakes. In fact, you're going the opposite direction. You're building a culture of people that deflect and
blame, basically, without using the word. But yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. So this one, the embedding learning in your organization, if you're just moving fast and breaking the law over here, then hey, maybe we can't help you. But if you're moving fast and your culture is one where you think that you can't slow down because you might get blamed for slowing down, or you might get yelled at for slowing down, or whatever. Here's some stuff I'm showing on the screen, some stuff here. Some things you can try after a significant failure, whatever that failure is. I'm calling it a failure. Call it whatever you want, right? After any kind of significant incident, let's say that. Could be a lost deal, going back to the first section of the podcast. Could be a production outage, which, trust me, if you're moving fast and breaking things, you're going to have these outages, or missed deadlines, which all the deadlines, a reminder, all the deadlines are fake anyway. That's
true. Or losing customers.
That's true. That's true. Any of these things. So pick one of these and, just call a quick retro on the one problem, one cause, one action. It's a little deviation of the Mike Miller one problem, one cause, one action. Yeah. Figure out what you can do. What one action are you going to take? And, how are you going to make it better? What was the cause, and what one action are you going to take away from it? And then if you don't have a learning backlog. So this is like the technical debt equivalent of what are the things that we need to learn around here, which I think of like everyone should have some sort of like AI tools on this backlog right now of like the team doesn't know how to work with generative code tools. Maybe you don't have Copilot or whatever. Start figuring out how that stuff works into your daily working process. Simple stuff like that. I mean, that's a simple example. You can think of more complex examples, like better ways of doing things and actually deprecating the way you were doing things before in order to learn better and faster ways. And this is just ongoing, continuous, forever in the world of tech. You just should be doing this anyway, except we don't think about it in terms of our whole team is going to be contributing to doing this at the same time, pushing everyone's skill level up. But the category we're talking about, this stuff directly conflicts of like, well, we're always just like racing to the next deadline. There's no time to take vacations. There's no time for retrospectives. There's no time to question whatever,
Yeah.
There's no time for product management. There's no time for bathroom breaks.
Yeah, far off. Yeah, so I mean, some of this stuff is going to require you to cut across organizational structure and silos, etc. But try chipping away at it. You'll be surprised.
So, okay, I think if we're going to wrap up this podcast with a zinger, it's going to be, if you cannot articulate what you could have done instead, you didn't make a decision. You just reacted and called it a strategy in retrospect, which is not what we're talking about. Retrospective. That's not what we're talking. Yeah.
Hindsight.
Yeah, you kind of miss the point. Yeah. So most organizations, they don't learn from missed opportunities because I don't think that they believe that they have missed opportunities.
Even though they're hitting them in the face every day.
So if anyone asks a question, what could we have done instead? I think they're risking their career at that point. That company.
And so
keep that resume updated.
Keep that resume updated, folks. But yeah, do let us know in the comments below what your experience has been.
And if you can think about opportunities at your work that you could have taken but did not, like I'm also interested to know if anyone actually has a process that they revisit those on any kind of basis. Because again, like most of the companies I've ever worked at, revisiting a decision, they'll say, "Ooh, Brian, you're pointing fingers, revisiting old decisions," even if there's evidence there. Yeah, so this was an interesting topic. I wanted to have this podcast for a while. We haven't been able to get to it because we had tons of stuff that was in front of it. But learning from missed opportunities, even understanding what missed opportunities there are, So yeah, if you have any of those, please let us know in the comments. And also,
like and subscribe.